Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, the unofficial official podcast dedicated to everything high-level teamfight tactics in North America. And once again, I am back. My name is Frodan. I am your host, joined with me by another special guest while Bryce is still in the middle of swings of his paternity leave. Bryce and his family have expanded by 2. If you haven't heard, they now have twins. They went from 1 to 3 kids. And so they've got a lot going on in the Blum household. In the meantime, I got Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, who was casting the mid-set finale. He's been covering most of the events this set. Nathan, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, of course. I'm always happy to be here. The Bryce having twins after being a twin himself is crazy, because I thought that was like one of those things where it was a higher percent, but that's only in non-identical twins. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that, because he kept emphasizing that it's not statistically likelier for him to have twins because he's a twin, but everyone says that. So if you want to one guy Bryce, the next time he comes back, pretend like you don't know he had twins, and then we're gonna be like, hey, what happened? Where were you? And he'd be like, oh, I was busy, having, like, my family was like expanding, having twins. And he's like, wait, aren't you a twin? And then he'll be like, yeah, I am. And then be like, what are the odds? That's crazy. That's actually super likely. It makes sense. And he gets so mad.
Your first comment is, this is how you gotcha, Bryce.
Oh, yeah. I'm also, speaking of getting people mad, I think I accidentally spelled Tleyds' name wrong. Okay, actually, let's just set the record straight. First of all, how do I spell your goddamn username? Second of all, how do I actually pronounce it?
If you want to know how to spell it, like, can't you just look?
Yeah, but like, it's hard. All right, I think it's TLE, right?
Yeah. And then how you say it is Tleyds.
Tleyds.
Yes, I was like the only person who was correct this weekend.
Understood. Tleyds, welcome to the show. Fresh off of a top 8 at mid sets. Glad to have you, man. Introduce yourself for people who've never seen you before.
Hello, I am Tleyds. I guess I just started competing in TFT around like set 8. I played most of set 8, just kind of high challenger ladder, and then set 9 just also competed. Happened to do well in a couple tournaments, so I'm glad to be on the podcast and talk about mid set and all things set 9.
Awesome. Wow, so professional and formal and controlled. I like that. We'll check back in with you in a little bit, but we also want to welcome world champion and also another final lobby appearance from Replay. Welcome back to the show, man. How's life?
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to still be doing okay in these tournaments. So happy to be here.
I'm doing all right. My cat is very much on my desk and showing me her behind. Okay, so we wanted to talk about the mid-set finale, and the mid-set finale was pretty explosive. A lot of interesting results. But first, before we go too deep into it, I kind of want to at least get to know Tleyds a little bit better. You talked about how you had your journey throughout you started in set 8. But that wasn't the first time you were playing TFT, right? You had been playing TFT on and off, or at least regularly. What made you commit to starting to be more competitive in the first place?
Oh yeah, so I guess I started playing TFT around like the end. I think I played normal games with my friends at 6.5, and then I started playing like competitively on set 7. I played competitively, not competitively, but I just played on ladder basically. Set 7, hit challenger at the end of 7.5. And I guess I didn't know anything about competitions, and I'm pretty sure I learned competitions or like how to sign up for tournaments from this stream, from your stream.
Oh, snap!
That. So yeah. So I signed up then, and then just started competing in set 8, and I enjoyed it, so I kept doing it until set 9.
Wait, there's no way. You literally learned how to sign up from tournaments by watching Frodan's stream?
Yeah.
This isn't the
Oh, wow.
I mean, like, I just didn't even know, I didn't know, the tournaments were a thing until set 8, and then I signed up for it. I didn't watch any, competitive TFT until set 8. Yeah.
Well, I'm very honored, and that actually makes me feel like, that's kind of the whole point of the show. The whole point of the show is to, show not just to the people who are following, who really want to continue to dig deeper in into the roots of the competitive scene, but also to get to know more people and expand to newer audiences. So that makes me really happy to hear. And then the follow-up to that is, what do you think was the biggest reason for your improvement? Because obviously you have gotten better and better, and you've now had a really strong breakthrough performance. What do you think is the biggest reason for that?
Oh, I think two things. I would say getting over like major tournament nerves, like kind of like getting the feel of the tournament vibe and like how to play around that. I would say LCQ is when I like actually had a tournament performance where I just didn't get nervous and bot for every game. And then also studying a lot more, like being involved in and talking to different people, being in certain like multiple study groups and just talking about the game with other people. And I would say those two aspects have definitely helped me a lot.
Okay. Now let's talk about Rereplay, who, speaking of improvement, had a great improvement from the Freljord Cup to the Shurima Cup and now the mid-set finale. I believe I owe you an official apology. I asked you to be on a previous episode, and then I don't-know-walled you, and then I asked you again, and you're like, wait, what happened to the previous invite? You invited me, and then you didn't say anything. So here's my public apology and my repentance. Will you forgive me?
Forgiven.
All right, awesome. Do you also forgive me, because I have been rating you pretty highly, and it feels like you've also been feeling like people have been underrating you, and you kind of feel just kind of like this weird chip on your shoulder despite winning the world championship. Do you feel like that's fair to characterize, that you've been playing as if you have a chip on your shoulder?
Oh yeah, I think the more haters I have, the better I play. So I need like more people to think I suck, I think.
Why is that?
Way... Oh, because it's like I'm gonna prep really hard for every tournament, right? But like if more people think I suck, then I have more reason to prep even like a little bit harder, right?
That's fair. And so was it like after the world championship when everyone's like, man, Rereplay won the world championship, was your motivation dipping around then, even though you were like, I want to win 2 in a row and I really want to come back strong?
I think I was like burnt out for like a little bit, just because like prepping for the world championship is like a lot of hours of TFT over like multiple weeks. But I think I got over the burnout at some point. Yeah.
Was that during that time you got recently signed by Team Liquid? Was that when was that timeline? Was that while you were like trying to get on the throw recovery? Was that while you were moving? Because that's kind of what you were talking about with real life stuff that you were busy with.
Yeah. It was a lot of things, because like I was moving to New York around like the Freljord Cup for like a little bit before, and honestly I thought moving would be so easy. Like you just pick a place, you stay in it, and you move in like a week. But finding a place in New York is fucking hard, to be honest. Yeah. So like I don't know, it was a lot of things basically.
Okay. What's it like being on Team Liquid? Because when Robin left, we weren't sure if it was going to be like, oh no, more esports orgs are just like dropping their TFT players, but they picked you up, and so that kind of came out of nowhere from me. But it makes a lot of sense given how much Steve and Liquid really loves TFT.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think the coolest part is like Steve actually loves TFT. I see this guy like watching my streams, like I see this guy like doing a lot of like TFT related stuff, which is like, wow, like Steve personally actually cares about TFT, which I think is like kind of a good, like one of the main reasons I want to have a TL, to be honest.
That's awesome. Well, I feel like that's a really good segue, because we can go straight into discussing about the tournament itself, since we had a lot of stuff. But I think before we do that, we want to talk a little bit about kind of the news that's been happening. And I think I want to get some initial reactions about the new set. 9.5 is out, and both of you had a chance to play it. I've seen your guys' stream. Nathan has been really busy kind of recovering, but he's been also following along. So I'm going to pull up the new units here. So I'm just going to just briefly recap it for people who have been kind of under a rock and not paying attention. We have 3 new 1 costs. We've got Melio, Gangplank, as well as Alawi. These are 2 of the Bilgewater and 1's Ixtal. And then we got 3 new 2 costs, including Nefiri, who's like the new Shurima dog companion. That's the other half of Aatrox, as well as Kiana and Twisted Fate. And then for the 3 costs, we got 4 of them. We got Misfortune, who's like a strategist under the Bilgewater. We got Nautilus, who's a Juggernaut tank. Nico, who is a Bastion Ixtal, who actually can carry. And then we have Quinn, who replaces Garen for Demacia Slayer. And then for 4 costs, we got 5 of them. It's almost a brand new 4 cost roster. We got Fiora, Mordekaiser, Zaya, Silco, and we got it's actually got so much interesting stuff around that. And then the final, of course, piece is Gangplank. And so I want to ask just people, just give us like, reactions. What's your favorite unit so far? What you've been having the most fun with? We'll start off with Tleyds.
So yeah, I've played I think like 3 or 4 games of PPE, and I played mainly like Zaya and Neela. So I would say those 2 are my favorite because I just haven't played the other ones. I think Silco's really cool, but overall I think the units that they added are very interesting and like interactive and fun to play. I need to just play more and get used to the items and how they interact with all the units, but so far liking it.
What's your read on like Zaya and Neela? Because I think they're like a little bit like a lot of people were like slamming Rageblade and then Mort Dog and Nico's and everyone had like stop slamming Rageblade on Zaya, like that kind of stuff. So can you give us a little bit of the skinny on what your experiences with Zaya so far?
Oh, I mean, I heard from a lot of people that she sucks, but like I've played her with like 6 Ionia and then with like Vanquisher +1s. But yeah, I think definitely don't build Rageblade on her. Build crit items, or not crit. Don't build IE, but build like
damage items.
DB. Yeah.
And, so Vanquisher, the new trait, basically it's like Assassin without a jump. You get a bunch of crit damage and crit bonus, but you don't want to build IE on them in the same way as you saw before. Replay, you're up next. What do you like so far about 9.5? What's your favorite unit, if you have one?
All right, I'm gonna keep it honest. I played 0.9.5. I watched 0.9.5. I honestly been touching grass for 3 days for the first time in a long time.
Wait, yeah. I saw you playing PvE for like one game or 2.
Someone else. I literally played 0.
Oh.
0.
I remember. You were climbing, and your stream title was trying not to get rank 1 GM. I remember that. Okay, that was live then.
No, it was not actually. I played until PvE came out.
No. I'm saying you were playing on live. That was when you were.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, so then based off of what you see, just I guess aesthetically or based off the traits or whatever, is there any unit that has caught your eye that you're excited about?
The only game I saw was I think I saw Milk play Graves reroll, and it looks like he was playing it without Rogue, and it still looked kind of good. So I might be pivoting from Viego to Graves.
Okay, we'll talk about the Viego incident in a little bit. Let's go to Nathan. What are you most excited about in terms of 9.5 so far?
Well, I've played a lot of Zaya so far. Dan knows that I love Rageblade style things, and Rageblade's really not been working on Zaya. Like it doesn't build up fast enough. Like the ability takes too long to, I think, take advantage of Rageblade. So I've been getting like hard 6th place with Zaya stuff. And then I played 1 Sorcerer game, which felt pretty cool. I feel like Silco has a chance to be a damage unit, but also has a chance to just be like a really strong support thing because he's amping damage. So I really like the Sorcerer stuff as well. I think I just spend my gold way not aggressively enough when I'm doing those. I will second the fact that Graves reroll, though, has absolutely shit on me every single time I've played against it, where I'm like, why is this so strong? It feels like Graves is invincible and that he just eventually kills everything. I've been very surprised by it.
I think right now people are just experimenting with stuff. So it could be the fact that you haven't played like a strong meta comp yet, or like a comp that will eventually become meta, and they're just capitalizing on like having high tempo because they have 3 stars and they're capitalizing on like boards that have weak points in it. So maybe Graves reroll is the new hotness. I've seen a lot of Milio reroll as well, which is always fun because Milio is just kind of ridiculous with the piercing shot. My favorite thing is that it feels like 3 costs have frontline options again, because if you looked at set 9.0, it was Taric and then a bunch of people that did damage. Garen, Rek'Sai, Darius. Like no one actually was helping you with your frontline, so you had to skip from 2 to 4. And that put a heavy emphasis on 2 costs being really good, right? That's where we played things like Swain, for example. Now we have Nautilus and Nico, which helps a lot. And also, I think Ixtal is a really fun splash. Ixtal is kind of like set 2 elemental hexes. Each game it's different. It's a little bit like Janna as well from set 8, if you remember. And each game the Ixtal Hex is a different element and has a lot of really fun things that you can do with it. Some OP combos as well. But anyways, that's just some of the things to look forward to with 9.5. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and maybe Replay doesn't have much to contribute, but you can get some thoughts, is the item changes. There's been a dramatic shift in the number of items. This is the wrong graphic. The first one, we start with the core items. They have replaced Chalice, Locket, Zephyr, Shroud, Zizurot, and Zeeks. These are all support/aura items, and they moved most of them to a category called support items, and then injected some new items into support, which now becomes like an augment that you can have, like kind of like a portable forge, but instead of a forge of artifact, you get a bunch of support items. And so now you have Adaptive Helm, which is like a strategist item. You put something in the first 2 rows, you get tank stats. Put something in the back 2 row, you get AP and mana. There's also the Crown Guard, which is new Locket, gives you HP shield and a bunch of AP. You have Even Shroud, which is basically Ionic Spark for AD. You have Nashor's Tooth, which is all the rage that people are playing on PvE. And then you have Night Harvester for the bonus damage, and then Gauge for the Zeke's replacement. I know I'm throwing a lot out there, so Tleyds, just give me some thoughts. What's your first reaction after playing a bunch of the items? Do you like the changes? Just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I really like the changes. I feel like there were some certain item combinations that when you got dropped those items on 2-1, you felt like you could not play the game because they are like they were late game items like Shroud and Zephyr that you couldn't slam. But I think most of these probably have like stages in the game that you slam them like optimally, but they definitely feel like you can slam them a lot more, and they're more core to your comp, I would say. So yeah, I really enjoy the changes.
I like so as well, especially like Belt has jumped up a lot in value. It feels like now Belt is like a great component to almost start off with, gives you a ton of flexibility. I won't ask you too much for analysis replay. Oh. Is there anything you'll miss out of all the units that items got removed?
I actually have 2 things. Like so one, I think removing Zephyr is like my favorite change of all time, because I think like getting this off of carousel late game, like in a 1v1 situation, like basically decides who's gonna win the game, which is like I think just so unreasonable. And then the other thing is I don't know. I read these just now, but like to me these all look like very situational, which I think might even be a bad thing for the game, where like a lot of these items like seem like they have like very particular holders. I mean, I don't know the units. The units in this set, but like a lot of these items look like they have very particular like users for them, which kind of like I don't know, like you probably want like a lot of flexibility in a lot of items, so I would be concerned about that.
Okay,
but not really sure.
That's fair. Then you'll probably love Adaptive Helm, since I know you were like one of the big pioneers of the Guard Breaker advents. So we'll see if maybe you like that item as much as I do. Nathan, what do you like so far about the changes?
I love that Belt finally feels like it's doing what Belt is supposed to do, which is power something else up. And now it felt like before that it was powering up Warmogs, and then that was it. And then they made Guard Breaker, and I was like, okay, this is great. It's powering up a glove to do something. Sunfire always just makes sense. I don't want to change Sunfire. But with everything else, now it feels like a belt is empowering what that thing is. Like it's empowering a sword now. It's empowering a tier to be something. It's empowering a rod to be something. It feels like it's now fitting with everything that's supposed to be. Like, I know this is like not a competitive thing, but it's flavor-wise, it's doing exactly what a belt feels like it should do. And that just feels better to me. But alternatively, I'm glad they're removing things like Shroud and Zephyr that are just ridiculously powerful in circumstantial spots where it feels like somebody doesn't necessarily have a reason to have a Shroud or Zephyr other than that it just showed up and they were on that side of the carousel. I think that's a massively good change. And I love items that can be adapted exactly as it says, like being a front 2 or a back 2 row thing, I think is a really cool design that's in there. And I'm curious to see how these continue to get tuned and changed over time, because honestly, I feel like maybe changing a couple of items every set could actually be a thing that they do as well. You know, there's all sorts of things you can do with items, and they're showing that right now as well. Like I can only imagine like how many of these didn't make it into being a final slot with, you know, what's being come up with how large the TFT team has gotten. So I think this is a great change, and I can't wait to see what actual strong competitive players actually do with these once they get thrown into the mix and they're trying to start climbing as hard as they can.
Yeah, and those items are not completely gone. People are like, oh, I can't get Zephyr Shroud ever again. That's not true. It's part of something called a support item. I talked about how there's like an armory, like an offering There's 12 items being shown here. And you might notice that some of these items aren't even just the remove support items. Obsidian Cleaver and Needlessly Big Gem are like former Ornn artifacts that are now part of supports. And then you also have a couple of new ones like Aegis of the Legion, which is like a solo frontline a defensive item that supports a bunch of units. Or you might get something of the Martyr. I forgot what it's called. It's like Vision of the Martyr, and it's basically like Martyr the Augment, so to speak, where like if something dies, it gives a bunch of augmented healing to your whole team. So a lot of really interesting, like I don't know what this really does. My favorite has to be Banshee's Veil. I can't tell you how many times I just see Cassante fruitlessly try to kick my front line because I just have Banshee's Veil. Really fun stuff. And the best part about it is that there's one augment in the game that says you get a random training dummy, like a target dummy, that has support items on it. It's actually super fun. It's Wandering Trainer, but with support items. It's so fun. You guys have to pick it. I highly recommend.
The silver one seems broken.
The silver one? Okay. Because you get so much value off the target dummy, and then you get the random item. Yeah. I love it. So lots to look forward to. We're not going to go too much more into set 9.5 because it's just basically like 2 days in. So it's a bunch of speculation. And so with that, hope you guys having fun. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and close out the rest of 9.0. Ultimately, this is still the last episode of set 9 where we're trying to recap everything. So let's start from the very beginning of mid-set and talk about the biggest storylines going to day number 1. The first one we can just talk about, which is Tleyds ended up top 1 in points. You were on the main broadcast and, having that interview. What was it like, man? You were topping out on points. You were right. You're probably like really high on the emotions.
Yeah, it was. I was not expecting to go first on the day. I came in to mid set not feeling like the most confident in my play. I was just kind of not playing my best, VOD reviewing, not really liking how I was playing, not averaging well in scrims. So I kind of just went in and was like, oh, I'm just gonna play, like try to do my best, and then going first on the day was definitely a big surprise. So it definitely felt good and gave me a boost, like going into the rest of the days of the tournament. But yeah, it was definitely a treat, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because you and Replay were kind of holding hands day number 1, and a lot of people were saying that day number 1. In fact, a lot of people were talking about the whole weekend. It just felt like it was a lot softer than they anticipated. Did you also feel that too?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember all the games. I'm not sure. I would say it seemed, I don't know how a mid-set day 1 should usually be. It's my first mid-set, so I don't know. Judging the competition, I thought it was fine, but again, it could have been a soft field. I'm not sure.
Okay. Replay, what do you think?
I don't know. I feel like at this level of TFT, like everyone is like around the same. Like between like a select few people, like maybe a bit better, but like more or less, I feel like if you take the top 24 or the top 50 TFT players, like your level of field is going to be around the same. So I don't think it's soft at all.
Okay, fair enough. Talking about the biggest surprises of day 1, I think has to be Setsuko, Nathan. I feel like a lot of people had expectations that Setsuko would kind of be in the contention once again for the final lobby, but he got day 1 at mid-set.
I mean, it kind of just fits exactly what Replay is talking about, where if everyone is practicing super hard and you start cutting it up, like you get like the top 20, top 25, top 50, whatever it's going to be, once you have all of those people playing enough and having enough experience, that's just what happens. You see that in literally almost every variance game of all time, from like one of the oldest ones in history of poker to Magic, like the first like actual IP owned one, and then just every single game you look at, eventually it starts to happen that way. I feel like TFT is probably the most dynamic one where there's, despite how much variance there is, I feel like there's going to be something there that can separate fields, but I'm not sure how long that lasts or how long that goes on for. Even it's just, to me, it's so interesting to watch because every single set having changed as much as it is, and like patches changing as much as they do, even when it's little stuff, it can make such big differences with people who just simply they gained a piece of knowledge that somebody else didn't have. And so, obviously with Setsuko getting day 1, that's something that's really eye-opening, but it really speaks to that point that at the end of the day, it is a variance game and your job is to stand out. If anything for me, this kind of feels like, well, hey, I want more tournaments and more things like this.
I mean, I think it goes to show you that some of the strongest players, I think, have almost all gotten like effectively day one. I mean, Disrupt didn't get day one, but like the first day that he played in, he got day one in Shurima, Replay, and a handful of really good players in Failure Cup. And now it's happened to Setsuko, and these are the best and brightest of North America. So if anything, it should give us one, a little bit more leniency, especially for people who do end up getting eliminated earlier, but also like the people who are being really consistent, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I also wrote down for the podium of disappointments, which is a really rough way to phrase it, but I always try to do like the first, second, third. Weijin and Malala, I had high expectations going into the mid set as well. I really want to see them continue to pop off, but unfortunately they didn't. That is what it is. But I will say that also they put on pretty respectable performances. 21 to 26 points is really close. It could have just been like a simple 1 game point placement difference, and that would have changed everything. Let's go to day number 2. Now, day number 2 was kind of crazy because we talked about 21 was pretty good, and that was like 7-8 placements up from dead last. Robin went 22 points and went last at 16. So this is one of the highest floors that we've seen in quite some time. Tleyds, talk about day 2, coming off of that really hot day number 1. What happened in day number 2? And were you sweating a little bit?
Yeah, I was definitely sweating. I think I came off day 2. I went like turbo first. I just high rolled and went first. So I was like, oh, I have 3 bonus points and a first. Like, keep playing like this. Just keep top 4ing, and maybe we can get bonus points for day 3. And then I went turbo 8th in the next game. So I definitely felt like the heat or the pressure of the lobbies coming in on day 2. Had some bot 4s and then just tried to play consistent top 4 TFT, and I ended up middle of the pack going into day 3. But I think the bonus points definitely helped there.
How important is your cheering squad? As they have right now in chat spamming a bunch of random pastas, and it seems like you're getting a lot of love from that group in general. How big of a factor does that play into your head?
It helps. It's nice to when you get a first or top 4, just go in and have them chat and say hi, or I'll hop and call with them and they'll give me a boost or something. It's nice. Oh god, they're just spamming.
So are you part of this group at all, Rereplay, or are you just kind of joining the chat spam for funsies?
I'm not too big of a. I dabble in this group.
Oh yeah, well, I feel like there's some subcontext I'm missing here.
That's where it all starts, right? It's just the dabbling.
So you're not part of a group then, if that's the case, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Like a study group?
Yeah, we're part of like some kind of
like
specific...
a server. It's a Discord server. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So who's in that? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I mean, it's mainly like a lot of people that hang out in like mine. Joe Bookmarks, who else? JD, Groxy, who else streams? There's just like people that all hang out in our streams, and then we all are kind of like in a Discord, and we're all friends. And
that's fun. That is fun.
Yeah. So they're all the people spamming are kind of we all chat and Twitch.
Just go to Dane's stream and screenshot really these chat.
Yeah.
Let's briefly talk it just so that we don't lose a little bit of track, but kind of going back onto it. Day number 2, placements 9 to 16. Give one shout out, Admirable, to a player that I think did really well despite the fact that they didn't make final lobby.
Goobums, I think is one of the ones that always stood out to me for this one. I felt Goobums was like really well prepared, and just it's kind of hard to tell with Goobums because he's always going to speak like he's the best player in the world. And sometimes I think he's getting pretty close to it. But I just felt like that he just kept getting in spots where like there was just nothing really he could do about it. Like, I don't know if he's like picking the wrong comps and going the wrong angles, or if he just had the wrong idea or what it was. But I felt like Goobums was doing a really good job. Like, I went back and he was one of the players I went back and looked at some of the VODs for. I could only pick like 2 players just because I got a time factor, but Goobums was the biggest one. The thing that stood out to me the most about day 2 was going into game 5. We were trying to figure out which lobby to watch. And I was like, well, wait a second here. There's a chance that the cutoff is 30 points. And we're sitting there. Yeah, we were sitting there in the in the wisdom chat, like trying to figure out which lobby to watch. And I was like, well, hang on a second. There's chances that the cutoff is literally 30 points. Like 29 points would not have made it. And there would have been a player at 29 points if that outcome had taken place. And we were like floored looking at it. Like 28 points was not a guarantee to get you into day number 3. And we were just like, what is happening here? Like there was one outcome where it was 28 points was like a 4-way tiebreaker. And it was just like, I didn't know what to think of it, because what I had to do is I had to go and start drawing out individual diagrams of the crazy outcomes so that I could help direct watching the stream if something ridiculous and crazy was happening. This is one of them. The most common line was, of course, the one that panned out, which was 28 points being a large tiebreaker on it. But there was one spot where 28 points was like a 7-way tie at 28 points as well.
Wild.
And it just kept getting crazier and crazier, because in the first 3 eliminations that took place, that outcome was still there. And while it's hard to do, I went and I glanced at the other lobby that was taking place, because I had one player stream brought up. And the player that went 8th in that one was still fitting that bill of this giant 28-point thing. I was like, I have to close this. I can't watch this right now. And then also cast a TFT match. This is impossible. And I felt like the whole day, it was like, it kept having these weird things. We're like, wow, this is really close and some crazy stuff is happening. And then just going in the last game, the fact that 30 points could have been the cutoff for the first 3 eliminations was just ridiculous.
That's pretty crazy. It didn't end up being that way, but I didn't realize it was like that close. But there was a 4-way tie at 28, which was pretty wild. In terms of like also going back to the original question, replay, anyone from 9 to 16 that you feel like also is kind of deserves a shout out for how they played, even though they didn't make it?
I didn't look at anyone's games too closely, but I know I was looking at Velia's scores, and this guy was going first or 8th every single game. I don't know if he was high rolling, or I don't know if he was low rolling his 8s, but I don't know. I kind of want to see his playstyle, see how is it possible to go like 5 straight games of only first and 8s. Like I don't know. Yeah,
do you know what legend he played? I'll give you 2 guesses.
Like
I do. He was in my games.
No, not Poro.
Master Yi?
No, he went Bard all weekend. He was a Bard player, and when it was like he was either hitting and he had like Vel'Koz 2, Taric 2 at 2-5, like that kind of setup, and 10 making 10 gold, or it was like he had nothing going on. He was lose streaking all the way to 3-5. He levels to 7, rolls to 0, and is paired up at everything, and he just goes 8th. So that's kind of the Bard experience in a nutshell. Either everything is going right and you level up and you get all the things that you need, or like I don't know, it just feels like you kind of lose control of tempo. But that is cool. It is cool that he found like that unique strategy, because not many people were playing Bard. Tleyds, you noticed that, right?
Yeah, he was in I think a lot of my games, because I feel like I actually knew what he was playing most of the time. I mean, he had some very disturbing firsts. Like I remember I saw him with Taric 2 on 2-1, and then a Vel'Koz 2 with like Shojin JG on 2-5.
Yeah, that's the game I was watching.
And like it was either that, or I don't actually think I saw his 8th games, but he also played some interesting lines. He played a lot of like Shadow Isles, which I think people were shying away from because they weren't doing that well in the tournament. And was able to go first with that in one of my lobbies. I was pretty impressed with his play. I didn't watch like all of his games, but I thought he had an interesting play style and like, kind of the way he handled it. So I would definitely shout him out too.
All right. I want to give a shout out to people who probably don't want shout outs, which is I think that Soju finishing top 10 again is really good. His results all set long had the lowest he got was 13th. He got 13th, 12th, and 10th. That's really consistent across all this tournaments, and always within 1 or 2 points of advance to the last day. Now, I know he tweeted, he said that anybody with his rolls could have made day 3 actually embarrassing. I get it. I'm sure he probably felt like he could have done better, but also I feel like when he was running it down to 700 LP Grandmasters, people weren't even sure if this guy was going to show up. They thought that he was just probably going to like ditch the tournament, and then we have to waitlist it. So I'm proud of him. And I also want to give a shout out to Jack, who actually had a really reasonable set, all things considering. I think Jack is a player that, you know, he said the set 9 was like his first like set where he's really trying super hard, really trying to go for it, and almost made it to another final lobby in 2 out of 3 tournaments, which would have been really, really cool. So just wanted to note those 2 names as we look at the final lobby. And the final lobby was kind of a rout for first place. Kurumx dunked everybody to 8 points, meaning that y'all could have played one more game and he still would have had at worst a tie with Dish Soap. But you know, really good result for Kurumx, and now he's won 2 out of 3 tournaments, which surely should enter him in the conversation of top of North America. And I think we should just go to the top then. Replay world champ, one of the best players in North America. Do you feel like this is lightning striking twice, or do you feel like this is deserved because Kurumx played really well and he's just a really underrated player the way everyone's hyping him up now?
I think it's hard to say. I think at the very least, like he's near the top. I think if he's at the top, it's kind of hard to say after just 2 tournaments. But I mean, like you can't win 2 tournaments by just lightning striking twice. Like you have to be pretty freaking good. So
that is true. That is true. In terms of the top 8, while I have you here, besides yourself and Kurumx, and we'll move to Tleyds as well. What's another player that caught your eye during this final lobby?
Oh, I feel like Precedent has actually been like playing a really consistent set. Like this guy, I don't know. There's like lotion on his table, but whenever he streams, like he's actually using his brain. I don't know like what's going on, but like
wow.
His tournament performances have been like very solid too. Like I don't know what happened between like last set and this set, but the lotion's working.
Lotion tech. Oh dear. It's like a new bottle per tournament. I know what you're talking about. It almost feels like he doesn't allow himself to finish the bottle. It's like if it gets halfway, he almost like acquires a new one. Why does he have like 6 of them and like a roll of paper towels right next to it? It's just
all I'm saying is if it's working for him, like I would not recommend changing it, honestly.
Yeah, keep the lotion there.
I want moisturized skin too, okay? But I don't want it on my hands while I'm gaming, all right? So I'm going to use paper towels, I'm going to wipe it off, and I'm going to keep my keyboard and my mouse clean.
Yeah, we want it dry like a desert out here. Oh, I mean, at least Admiral lives in the desert. Okay, Tleyds, same thing to you. Outside of yourself, Replay, Kurumx, and Precedent. I give you 3 names to pick from. Who do you want to shout out from there?
So is this shout out for like who I think had the best mid set, or
maybe just like a storyline that you really liked in the final lobby that didn't? Because we're gonna ask about your guys' opinions about the top 8 as well, but or for yourself.
I mean, I'll shout out Vanilla for making final lobby playing Poro. I think that's pretty impressive. I would never play Poro, but I think you played pretty well.
So why
Poro.
is that though? I know. I think I have a reason why. I'm sure a lot of other people understand why, but there's always people in chat being like, "Why aren't more people playing Poro?" And in your opinion, why is Poro so inconsistent?
Oh, I mean, you're just allowing yourself to get more dogged. Like I think with the consistent legends like Ezreal, Urf, and Ornn, like there's not a like 2-1, 3-2, or like 4-2 augment that you hate picking. But basically, if you play Poro, you are allowing like 1 extra roll for just complete variance in your game. And I think taking a consistent option is probably better for tournament play. But you got to hands down to someone who would play Poro.
To add to that, I think like the consistent legends, quote unquote consistent legends, like their stage 3, stage 4 are like pretty average, and like you would honestly prefer Poro over them. But I think the biggest thing is like Ezreal's stage 2 like are very good, and Ornn's stage 2, like Portable and Latent, are both like very good augments. Like I think that's like the biggest difference. Like your stage 2 is like a consistent good augment is what makes like I think taking Poro, like I could be wrong. I think taking Poro is worse than taking a consistent legend. So I think it's impressive he's found a lot of like more Poro.
Yeah. And we didn't see a lot of Urf at all. I mean, Setsuko was kind of the one piloting Urf and really pushing it forward. And I felt like all the Urf players were dropping like flies one by one. In the end, it was all Ezreal. Ezreal was the most popular, and then Ornn, as both of you were playing. And then we had the Poro as well. What happened to Urf replay? Like it just dropped off the face of the planet.
I think it's similar to what I was saying earlier, where like people realized Urf's like 2-1s are not actually that good. Like you actually don't really want to be taking like the ancient archives that often. And like branching out is like too high variance. Like it's I think his 2-1s are just not as good as like the Ezreal and the Ornn 2-1s.
Okay. Until I said, I mean that. Were you ever considering not Ornn throughout the tournament whatsoever?
Oh, I tried Urf and Ornn. I was like pivoting between them. I wish I actually would have like practiced Ezreal more, because I think it would have been good to play in tournament. But I tried Urf, and like I think Urf, if you need to go first, is like probably a better pick than Ornn. But you can just allow yourself to basically you lock yourself into a comp on 2-1, and if you miss, you just go turbo 8. Like with Urf, if you take his tomes or branching out or whatnot. It's not a consistent 2-1 augment. I think it's 3-2 and 4-2 are very good, but probably not good for tournament play. So I think it just allowed two hot like variants to kill you.
My favorite thing about
why I
Urf
didn't play it.
is taking that Radiant on 4-2 and just scamming the most undeserved 2-star legendary out of nowhere, or like just getting like the crazy bailout.
Or that prismatic is broken.
It's so ridiculous. Okay. We have a couple of generic questions here as well. So feel free to say pass if you don't feel like it actually applies. But who tried to grief, or who griefed your tournament the hardest? Who was the biggest obstacle that got in your way that stopped you from either getting that bonus point or making that run that position you for winning the lobby?
Oh, I got something.
Okay.
I got something.
All right, hit me.
I was sitting here playing double troll Viego, trying to go Giga first, and I was probably going to go Giga first. And then the dish up sitting here playing the boringest comp of all time, reroll Tristana. So I took so long to decide to play double troll Viego. Like I forgot to scout to see if I was contested, and I was contested. And then me and Dishsoap, I thought we were hitting us a deal. Like I was like, I'm gonna hold like you hold 3 Viegos. I'm not gonna hold any like Poppies, Tristanas or whatnot. And he says yes. And I sell my Poppy, and he just holds. Like he just holds. like that's how you like PSA. Like if you want to know a rat, there's a rat.
Oh my god. Man, maybe he has to change his name as Tleyds because he lied.
He got second place. I mean,
damn.
Oh yeah.
Damn.
Like you go second in this tourney, but like, isn't your like I don't know, like your reputation just ruined? Probably. Like there's bigger tourneys than just mid set. Come on now.
That's right. He has to save that for the World Championship at least. Okay, actually, real quick before we move past on that, dude. Viego in the final lobby. What events transpired that led you to try to go for that in the final lobby? Because one, I gotta applaud that. That's actually really cool that you went for it. But what happened?
So I actually think okay, so this is like a few things. I think double trouble Viego is pretty good. I played it like 3 times total, like in the set. But all 3 times it looked pretty good. So I think it's like a very legitimate line. I was just like so far behind tempo because I didn't hit Viego 3 on 2-1, or I didn't hit Viego 3 by like 3-1, which in the sump is like kind of the time you hit your 1 cost carries. And then the other thing, okay, so 2 things. I think if there was stats, okay, tangent. If there was stats in this game, I'm pretty sure Double Trouble would be way better of an augment. Just because like people would know what other people are playing, and then you can like actually test out like, oh, I'm looking at the stats. Like Viego is very good with Double Trouble, and then like more people will test it out, and they'll get more sample size, they'll get better items, and like I don't know, it just make way more sense. But instead, I'm playing it for 3 times. I have 3 game sample size, and I'm sitting here playing it in mid-set finale. So yeah.
By the way, chat ran a poll asking who was the bigger griefer between Rereplay and Tleyds. And Rereplay won by 100% to 0. No one voted for Tleyds. All right, Tleyds, speaking of griefing, who is the griefer that you want to call out for this tournament?
Okay, this person didn't personally grief me, but I just think they griefed me in terms of they always scammed a placement from me when I needed it. Like this Darthnov guy, like always when I went 5th was going 4th, like scamming a 4th or scamming a 3rd when I was going 4th, and like we were always like 7 HP, and he would fight like the weaker board and scam, or he would fight me and like playing Noxus Azir and beat me and then just scam a placement. So I would say like that guy, but I don't think he intentionally griefed me. I think he just scammed placements from me.
That's fun. He was one of the Master E players. I'm bringing up some stats. We don't have to talk too much about it because these are in the past for the most part. But Master E definitely came in with a lot of hype over the weekend. Darth Noob was one of those Master E players. I think in hindsight, I think it's safe to say it wasn't actually that good. It was good for like the players that were actually finding reasonable results, but I think a lot of people were expecting it to kind of like dominate. Like, oh, don't let Darth Noob or Milk be the only Master V player because they're just gonna like win everything. In hindsight, I feel like that's not really true. Would you agree with that, Tleyds?
I would agree with that. I think there was like a ceiling that the Aphelios like Master Yi comp had to hit, and once you hit that ceiling, you couldn't lose. But I think like piloting to get there, especially if you're full open early game, you can just end up going like turbo 8th if you can't hit your board.
Yep. Okay, one other stat I want to call out here that I just think is fun. The boss, 80% top 4 rates. Pretty good stuff. Anchored by Solus getting a win that one time. I mean, that was really cool. Just seeing more people taking that kind of stuff. You love to see it. You love to see it. All right, so that closes up our top 8. Now we move on to player testimonies of the top 8. As you guys know, I like to DM a bunch of people asking how their tournament went if they made final lobby, and most people responded. We start off with Milk. Milk said, honestly, I don't even want to think about mid-set weird champ. And that's literally all he said. So that's all I could get from him. Okay, so then and on to more serious stuff. I asked Precedent. Precedent said, I went to the tournament feeling like a 3 out of 10 and was really lost with the wrong meta read on day 1. But by day 3, I did a good job fixing my read and my confidence turned into a 7 out of 10. On day 3, I've never high rolled that hard in a tournament in my life before and was definitely capable of contesting Kurumx 30 points if a couple things went differently on that day. Overall, I think I had a decent performance so far this set, and I'll probably win Noxus into Worlds qualifier. Nathan, what's your reaction to that?
I am like pretty shocked that I guess like it's hard to judge like what players think is like a super high roll for them, I guess is a good way to put it. Because every time I see a player play, it's like, you know, I only get to, a lot of times I'm only seeing like a few turns from them at a time, or I'm seeing like 2 turns of rolling, or I just get to look at like what their items were, what their items are now, and what's happening there. So to go back and look at all the tournament things from their perspective, it's very difficult to know that. So when I hear someone's high rolling, I'm going to believe it. But Precedent just played good the whole set. Like, I always felt like he was one of the top players the entire time. I don't think I excluded him from like a top 10 in any of my ballots. I think that if I could have been in like the fantasy drafts, he'd have been one of the players I was going after. Just, I mean, I'm glad his confidence got boosted up. I mean, 7 out of 10 feels pretty low considering his results for things, I'd say. You know, maybe that's the field that's lacking there, but I don't know. He's kind of seemed to have a positive attitude the whole time as well. Yeah, I feel like 7 out of 10 is kind of low for what I think.
You just gotta think about that final reserves game where he went 8th, where he contested Milk, and Milk went 5th. Right? He didn't even finish the job. He actually just died, and both of them bought 4. I'm pretty sure that's where both of their tournaments ended mentally. It was really hard to recover from that.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was a crazy game too.
We got Dish Soap next. He said, I was falling upwards the whole weekend. IMO I played pretty bad for my standards, was carried by a better meta read and strong early game. Replay. Did Dish Soap feel like he was playing pretty bad from your perspective at all?
I think it was hard to tell. I don't think I actually had him in too many lobbies until the final day. I do think like Dish Soap just in general like underperforms in tourneys compared to his like ladder standard.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think a lot of tourneys is mental, and I mean I have no idea like what's going on in Dish Soap's head, but I feel like a lot of tourneys is not like how good you are at the game, but how good you can even recover from an 8th.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I feel like the way it was being described to me is that for a lot of these players, they kind of for tournaments, some players harden their resolve, meaning that they are really committed to the lines they want to play. And they're trying to like phase out the unnecessary noise because they don't want to get baited by whatever comps or other different trees that like might interrupt their thought process. And then someone made a comment, I forgot who, but it was a high level player who made it like top 16, was like saying like, if Disto gets thrown off in tournament, it feels like he doesn't keep his composure nearly as well as he would in a ladder environment, which is really interesting. I don't know what to think about that, but something I'm going to keep an eye on moving forward because now I know to look for that. So we shall see. Okay, now people are talking about SDing with Precedent. I gotta tell you, some of the responses get longer. So here's the next level. Here we go. We got Kurumx up next. He said, respectfully, that shit was Legoland. But being serious, I doubt I'll ever play a tournament where I felt like my read was so far ahead of the field and my edge was that high. Usually to win a tournament, I think you have to run well, but you also have to get insanely lucky. But I felt like way more high roll during my Failure Cup win. In this tournament, I doubled the gap between first and second with one less game. And on day 1 and 2, I left a lot of placements on the table with maybe 6 to each, 8 each day. On the final day, I think I hit my max in most game. Maybe if I scrutinized every single game, I could squeeze out an extra 2 to 3. But yeah, people were just bad. 3-day patch, and I took advantage of it. I told you in an interview after day 2, my read is too good. We already won. All right, Tleyds, give me a reaction to this.
I mean, I feel like he's back in his talk. I think he destroyed everyone early game and probably had one of the best reads going into mid set after like a 3-day patch. I mean, I think what he's saying is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the volatility of it. A lot of people said like if I had 2 more days to like flesh things out, I would really be able to map it out. That's probably what Milk would have typed if he actually wanted to type out a thoughtful response. Speaking of thoughtful responses, we got Darth Noob. He wrote, a few days before the tournament, I was so bad. I had to swap to my Smurf because I needed to retain counter rank on my main for Vegas snapshots. Oh no. Then Robin released his Aphelios guide and was witnessing how broken Aphelios is, reinvigorated me. And he said, none of the Master E players, myself included, had nearly enough reps on the Legend since we all learned about it 1 to 2 days before the tournament. I spent the day leading up to the tournament spamming E in solo queue and mapping out my pumping up outs. But I still needed to learn the line during the tournament, especially since I've been a flexible Ornn Bard player the entire set. As the tournament progressed, I kept looking at my bot forwards and realized that 1, if I had just played pumping up line, I would have top forward. And 2, if I just lost streak instead of pressing F with pumping up, I would have had the items to play Aphelios. By day 3, I had gotten rid of most of my flexible tendencies and knew my game plan was good enough to potentially win the tournament. I got 3rd instead, and overall, I'm really happy with our results and my improvement over the course of the tournament. Replay, what are your thoughts when you hear this from Darth Noob?
Yeah, I can kind of see this. Like, I thought like the Mastery line, if you played it perfectly, it might have been like the best Legend line. Because like I saw a lot of like Mastery VODs, and I thought people just like sucked at playing the line. Like, I mean, it's not even their fault. Like they have 3 days to learn like a new line. Not even 3 days, because like people learned of it even later. So I can definitely see like the Mastery line being the highest cap, and if Naruto got the closest to the highest cap, like that makes sense to me.
Yep, that's good. And I like how thoughtful he is. Darth Noob, by the way, again, can't really say enough praises about like how much he's respected amongst peers. Love to see him finally get those results that justifies a lot of that hype. And goes to show you that these players who hype up these unknowns, they know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about. Okay, speaking of essaying, we have the final essay. Here we go from Vanilla. Going into this weekend, I thought it was doomed. I caught COVID at the calculated loss LAN event. A blast, by the way. And had a really hard time even thinking in the week prior to mid-set, let alone practicing. I expect to go dead last overall, but aim to take it at least 1 game in 1 day at a time. I just hope that if I play some good TFT, I could perform well enough not to embarrass myself. After the first 3 games, I was shocked that I still even knew how to play TFT from hazily watching the scrims in bed. Yet somehow I was actually in first. From this point forward, I really started to believe in myself, in my play, and it was smooth sailing for day numbers 1 and 2. Oh, but there's more. Day number 3 was an eye-opener for me. I had many experiences in my life so far that I tested my mental fortitude, nerve, clutchness, whatever you want to call it. But this was the first time in nearly a decade I felt myself fall apart. I couldn't get my head on straight. I felt desperate, and he capitalized desperate. I think I was so excited and I put so much importance on my performance because I actually felt like I had a chance to win. Instead, the opposite happened and I played like an absolute bot. LMAO. After a few days of being disappointed and letting myself down, I'm able to reflect really proudly on myself for this event. This is my first set performing at this caliber, and I really hope to get the opportunity to prove that I'm here for the long haul. Vanilla is a name you'll be seeing in every final lobby. Mark my words. Nathan?
The thing that stood out to me the most was the I felt desperate thing. Because when you go and watch day 3 and their first 3 games, their losses and their reactions on camera to them, it just, this person felt flabbergasted. The person who typed this up, their reaction to the tournament result was that they felt flabbergasted. Vanilla looked frustrated and angry and honestly desperate. I think that desperate is really the word that wraps this up here, because the losses were so close. It's in these spots where you're like, well, wait a second. And then just there it happened. And then, you know, they went for a big loss streak game and instead of being at 38 to 45. Instead, they're at 28, and it just felt like they kept getting pushed in these spots where you're trying to chase down something and it's going worse than you even anticipated to try to make something out with it. And then once it all came together, you faced like the strongest comp, or you faced a comp that had a bunch of crit across their team and everything got crit, and it happened and it died. I felt like Vanilla was actually playing pretty well, and I felt like the confidence was there after day 2, and then it was just the first 3 games of day 3 was just like disaster, 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 and not necessarily because of things that they're doing. I think it just kept running into tough spots in the lobbies.
Yeah, I mean, day number 1, he was hitting like Jewel Lotus 3 social distancing with challengers, and then Kaisa 2 Yasuo 2 20 gold on 7. Like, and those games play itself. And he was in some tough spots. I'm sure he'll bounce back, and I'm excited for the future of him. He only get 1 vote though. And on that note, we're going to talk about the people who did get votes. We're going to do a little comparison. We like to show how well did we predict the top 16. We give ourselves 1 placement for error, and we got 10 of them. The people that missed out on top 16 were Setsuko, who got 22nd, Weijin, who got 19th, DQA, who got 24th, Malala, who got 21st, and Casper, who got 23rd. So overall, not too bad. And we want to give a shout out to the best ballots. And the best ballot went to Weijin Iverson, who got 11 out of 15, because he was one of 3 people who put Tleyds alongside myself and Clear. Guys, did you happen to see the ballots? Did you see that 3 people actually gave you votes?
I did see that. Someone told me in Discord basically that you, Weijin, and Clear all gave me a vote.
And what was your thoughts? Where you're like, these guys don't know shit, or we're like, awesome! I can't believe they actually recognized me.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was nice to get a vote. I was happy.
Awesome, great. Okay, cool. So looks like we did all right, and I think it's always fun to review these to show how well we actually ranked. And a lot of people got 10 for the most part, so we were mostly there. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and do another top 15 list, which is, I always ask the people who come on these reviewed episodes to give me their current top 15 or however they want to define it. So start off with Replay, shall we? Let's put up his top 15 list. So, oh man. Replay's top 15. At number 1, Replay. At number 2, Setsuka. At number 3, Dish Soap. Number 4 is Kurumx, 5 is Prestivan, 6 is Milk, and 7 is Robin Songs. At 8 is Weijin, 9 Tleyds. Vanilla at 10, Goobums, Kiyun, Dark Noob, Soju, and Jack round out the bottom 5. And so I love to always ask this question. Replay, this is your top 15 list. First of all, before we actually dive into my question, how do you define this list? Like, what's the criteria of the top 15 here?
Yeah, I kind of just did like who I thought were the best players and had like the best results like overall. I didn't yeah, I don't know, like who I thought was the best.
Okay, so it's not just off ability, but this is performance as well. It's like weighted.
Plus performance, yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, so now the fun question: where's the first gap?
Oh, I think the first gap is after 3. I think. I don't know. I think there's like I need like 1 more current tourney to put them in the top 3. Yeah.
Okay. How well does he have to do in that tournament? Like final lobby?
I don't know. It's just like I think Kurumx has been a beast in set 9, but like I don't recall him doing much in set 8. So I don't know. I think I need like a little more longevity. You know.
Okay, understood. And then where is the second gap? So you have Replay, Setsuko, Dish Soap, and top 3, and then Kurumx right below that, but there's a little bit of a gap. Where's the second gap, you would say?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I think like 4, 5, 6 all have like consistent set 9 performances, like tourney to tourney. So like,
got Milk.
Maybe there's like a gap there, and then like from there like 7 to 15 is kind of a hodgepodge. Like they all have some sort of error.
Interesting. Okay. So basically there's in Replay's mind, there's 3 tiers. There's a Replay, Setsuko, Dish Soap, and then there's Kurumx, Prestivan, Milk, and then everybody else. I want to ask about Tleyds, which is he's at 9 and he's over people like Goobums and Soju and other names. What in your mind puts him and here, like not even just in the double digits yet 9?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't VOD review with someone who I thought sucked. So yeah, like Tleyds doesn't suck, even though his name's Tleyds.
Okay, all right. Tleyds, I need a reaction off of that.
That is classic. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to react to that.
I guess you don't suck. Nice.
Yeah, I don't suck. GG's. I'm glad.
That's great. That's great. So you put Vanilla here at 10. Do you think that? Because other people were just straight up saying like, I think he high rolled, or I don't think like he didn't really impress me. But he clearly has caught your attention, or is this purely off of the results that they made to final lobbies?
Okay, like the thing is like when people say I don't think he high rolled or like he didn't impress me, I'm pretty sure it's just like word of mouth. Like one person like is jealous and like they say like this guy sucks, and then like goes to the next guy, says this guy sucks and whatnot. Like I don't know, if you look at like the tourney results, like this guy doesn't suck. Like it's pretty obvious.
Okay. You say that about Jack as well?
No, he showed me DTIYDK the day before the tourney, so this guy sucks.
All right. And on that note, let's show Tleyds' top 15. What was the criteria of your top 15, Tleyds, before I show this?
Oh, so my criteria was set 9 specific. So it was like the top 15 performers of set 9.
Okay.
And then I based it on like 75% ladder, or not ladder, tournament performance, and then like 25% ladder performance around snapshots.
Okay.
So like where I knew people were around ladder, only snapshots though.
Sure, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because that was when people were trying for the points. Okay. So with that, at number 1 we have Kurumx. 2 we have Precedent. Wow. Distop at 3. Milk at 4, Rereplay at 5, Setsuko at 6, and Robin at 7. So far, the agreement is Dish Soap at 3 and Robin at 7. And then we have Soju at 8, appropriate. Tleyds at 9 himself, so you guys both agreed on that. Vanilla at 10, Darth Noob at 11, Goobums at 12, Kion at 13, Wasian at 14, and Jack sliding in 15th on both lists. All right, we can comment on that in a little bit. So same first question to you, Tleyds. Where's the first gap in your mind?
So I would say, how do I put this? I would say probably 1 through 5, because all of these people made final lobby twice, which I think is very impressive. Okay. They had very good scores either in one of the 2 tournaments and then also in mid-set. Like all of these people performed were final lobby mid-set. So I would say 1 through 5, and then like Setsuko, Robin, Soju, they all had just like I guess each tournament was very good performances, but they didn't have like a lot of final lobbies. I would say I guess they had 1 final lobby, Setsuko and Robin, but like still they're very good. But I would say 1 through 5, and then like 6 through 8 probably.
Okay. And so Setsuko's win doesn't materially move the needle enough for you, right? Like some people say like winning the tournament is like everything, and you're saying like I care about like, you know, in poker, getting the bracelet, making it to the final table, that kind of stuff.
Oh, I think Setsuko like would be a lot higher. Like I don't know, I could be convinced Setsuko is higher. I felt like it was hard for me to put him above like the other players who made such consistent final lobby results. But I wouldn't say like going first in one tournament would like sway the needle for everything.
Okay. I'm going to put you a little bit under the gun here in terms of number 9, putting yourself there in front of a handful of other players. What do you think you did better than the players that you ranked yourself above? And what do you need to do to crack the top 8?
Oh, I mean, I don't think like, I would just say I based it a lot on tournament results and then mainly like mid-set. Like I took mid-set and placements in mid-set probably into most consideration when looking at tournament results, just because it is mid-set. So I would say just based off tournament results, I had better, and then I also thought my LP was pretty respectable this set. So that's why I placed myself where I did, because I think the people above me had better tournament results on average, than I did. But the people below me, maybe not so much. And then in order to break top 8, probably just better tournament results, like more final lobbies, maybe like a tournament win or top 3 or whatnot to probably break top 8.
Okay. All right. One
going
step
into
at a time.
mid-set, you had a better average placement than Rereplay did.
Average placement is fake.
Well, that's literally the results, though, isn't it?
I feel like I looked at a lot of like final lobbies. Like
I think one thing to add is it's like to make a final lobby, all you have to do is be in the top half of a day. And if you're a good player, like variance shouldn't stop you from that. But like to win a tourney, you have to be 1 out of 8. And variance is going to always stop you out of that. So yeah. I think if you're like a very good, if you're a near perfect TFT player, you'll always make final lobby. Always. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean that makes sense to me. You can definitely top half of players, but variance can definitely get you from like a first place.
So if you're like Dish Soap, you will make final lobby. Is that what you're saying? The perfect TFT player.
I'm pretty sure.
Dish Soap.
Hold up. I think I have double final lobbies than Dish Soap, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So me.
And you've competed in fewer sets. If I'm counting this correctly, you've competed in 3, 8, and 9. He's competed in 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, I'm saying like from the start of set 8, I feel like I've played like the most final lobbies out of everyone. Besides maybe Setsuko. I think maybe tied with Setsuko. I don't know if Dish Soap's even there.
All right. I like this. I like how Replay is trying to hijack the narrative here, but I'm pretty sure the recognition needs to start rolling because people in general, I mean, this actually applies to even just the old guard in general, right? Like people like for a long time when we were doing these rankings at the very beginning, they had a hard time removing people like Kyun and Milk, and at the time it was like Non-Tom and Grand Vice and all these other people, like all these names for a long time that have been part of North America. It takes time. It takes time for people to shift their way they think, but it's happening. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. And on that note, let's move on to our second to last thing here in the show. This is actually the last big segment, which is Agree. This Agree is actually a Twitter edition. We actually just took a couple of posts and ask if the panel agrees. All right, let's start things off here. Last time we did a Bebe tweet. Why not do another Bebe tweet again? He said, a tournament platform will never work for TFT. Number 1, a skill game like Valorant guarantees around 50 games at least per team. TFT guarantees only 4 to 6. Number 2, tournaments don't get viewership because players are always different, plus low skill cap. Number 3, super server runs are better and cheaper. And so this actually sparked yet another series of people replying and being like, that's interesting, to like, hey, I want to see more of that, to L Take, and I wanted to hear what people thought. I'll start off with Tleyds.
Oh, I think it was a pretty hot take. I think the first thing saying that, like, I don't even know what I don't know how to think about this. Like, I think tournaments, you can definitely see who is the highest skilled player. Like, if you're good at the game, you will definitely make it far in tournament play. Like, I don't know why Super Server would be better than a tournament, just because it's more games, but they're also not as like stressful, and I would say high skill like a Super Server.
Oh, interesting. So you don't think Super Server is like that high skill?
How many people usually compete in a Super Server? I'm not super familiar with it.
Okay, so in China, it's usually like a couple hundred people that are playing on Super Server, and there's some guests from people outside as well. But they don't. The reason why Super Server is a big deal is because there's spots for regionals on the line. And for regionals, that's basically making the world championship. It's like a huge amount of prize money.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a interesting take.
Okay.
I could be convinced though, maybe.
Okay.
Wow, he's got good caster talk on that one.
Replay? What about you?
Oh, I think it's interesting. I'm down to just do both. Like, can we not just do both? Like Super Server and tournaments and more games. Like,
oh, I like that.
Hello.
That is true, but that does sound like that does seem like a disagree in terms of like how the way he's framing it. But I think you're liking kind of the bullet points that he's saying. And Nathan, is that kind of where you're at as well?
I mean, kind of, yeah. I think that, a super server is definitely not as skill testing necessarily, unless you're going to cap the number of games someone gets to play. Because if it's just like, here you go, who climbs the highest? It's like, well, I could stay up for 18 hours at a time and literally do nothing except play TFT. Well, I mean, sure, yeah, that's great. I mean, I do agree that we should have super servers. I think they're awesome. But it's like they run better because you get to play more games because they're cheaper. Like, I don't think that's a really good way to necessarily measure it. Tournaments don't get viewership because the players always diff plus low skill cap. It's like, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that tie into that, mostly because all of this players are, streaming their independent point of view while they're playing. I mean, just look at Worlds, for instance. It doesn't look that way. And then a skill game like Valorant guarantees around 50 games at least per team. TFT guarantees only 4 to 6. Like, first of all, you can't. This is like comparing apples to, like, I don't even, like, oranges isn't even the right word for this at the pony. You're like comparing apples to like whole grain wheats or something. Like, what the fuck? These are just two completely different games. So that doesn't work. And then second of all, like, Valorant is like a different form of variance in its own right, where there's literally the one mental layer and then the next mental layer and then the next mental layer. So the main identifying skill there has nothing to do with mental strategy, except on, like, we're both standing on one side of a box. Which side of the box did we guess to go on and then shoot? Like, this is not even fucking remotely comparable. And it's like, for someone as smart as Bebe is, the first point just absolutely blew me away. And I think I have like a weird bias towards the other ones, which is why I went in a backwards order addressing these, because I think I would just flame him on all 3 points if I started at the first one.
Okay, fair enough. I disagree with a lot of what he's saying. I do think that we did have our own variation of super server with the Box Bootcamp. Replays competed in that. I played that in as well. It's really fun, but kind of to what they were saying, it all, like, kind of what Nathan was saying, a lot of it is volume, like, and especially at the very beginning. So I think it's fun. I say the more the merrier. And I think I kind of get what Bebe's going at, which is he wants more ladder-based tournaments because, I mean, who can blame him? That's where Bebe is best at as well. So maybe we should get Bebe in the Box Bootcamp, and maybe he'll delete the tweet. We'll see. All right, let's go into the second agree. This one's by Tanner. Tanner says, I have a strong feeling 9.5 tournaments will be the best events ever to watch. Let's go with replay.
Is there any differences in 9.5 tournaments? Like, I as far as I know, it's the exact same setup as set at 8.5, right? So I don't know. I don't have reason to believe it'll be the best ever, but I don't have reason to believe it's not going to be.
In terms of probably the way the set feels to him so far.
Unfortunately for me, I have 0 games on 9.5. So I might be the least qualified person to answer this question. T-Luz, take it away.
All right.
I wish he, like, explained how he's, like, what his feeling is. Like, I don't know if it's just because he likes the set.
Because he likes the set.
If there's no tournament change format, then it would just be that he likes watching people compete with that set. And I mean, I think 9.5 will be good, but I don't know. I can't speculate how good it will be compared to some of the other sets and tournaments. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay. And admirable.
I think that there's going to be something special about them because we're never getting another, like, X.5 again. So that's definitely going to draw my attention for it. I think that I'm excited because, like, there's, like, the team has been consistently growing as well. I'm curious how that even affects the development of something like 9.5. I'm kind of ignorant on that, I guess. So I'm just more curious than anything else.
Okay, that's fine.
It's like neutral. I guess, like, I agree with that he has this feeling.
I mean, I think it's just general optimism, and I just think it's more interesting that he's so willing to just go on a limb and say this with, like, very little experience. He basically said this right after he saw PBE and was like, man, 9.5 is going to be, like, the best ever events to watch. And I'm like, I don't know what exactly inspires us. So I can't agree because I don't know where he's coming from, but I want to know what he actually sees. Maybe, like, China loves it, and that's good enough for him. We'll see. Okay, the last agree is kind of fun. It's not an actual tweet. It's actually what was in the tweet. It's Mort Dog's tier list of sets. He said that in hindsight, he puts set 9, Runeterra Reforged, second overall behind set 6 Gizmos and Gadgets, and ties set 4 and 4.5 in S tier. And that's the crux of the agree, is Runeterra Reforged top 2 in people's minds. We don't have to go through like the rest of it, because I think some people will be like, well, set 2 was awesome, I loved it, and you put it in D tier or whatever, or hey, I actually love set 3, why is it in B tier? We're not here to talk about that. It's more about the fact that Mort Dog has now put his stamp of where he thinks set 9 should be remembered, at least in his mind, and what he likes. Do we agree? We'll start off with Nathan.
Set 9 is very high on my list for me. It's really hard for any of the sets to beat set 4 for me, because I came back right at the end of 3.5. And so I was like, I'm going to try in set 4 to become good at this game, because I wanted to cast TFT. And aside from War Week, everything in set 4 for me, including 4.5, is very high on my dopamine list of things to do. And I remember when I saw that China was able to go back and play set 4, I was like, well, why the fuck why can't I do that? Set 6 was really big as well. Like this is a really hard measurement of how close these are. If I had to really like sit down and objectively put them in order, I think I move 4 to number 2, and then it's 9 is number 3, and then 4.5 is number 4. But I think it's still really close overall on that one. I mean, I'm this close enough that I'll give it an agree. They're all S tier.
Okay, let's go with replay.
Oh hell no! I feel like 3 point. Okay, so kind of off topic. I'm pretty sure like the set 3s were way better than like 6. I've never played 6 or the 4s, but better than like 9 and 8s. Like there's no way. Like set 3 was so good. And then besides that,
wait, 3.0 or 3.5? Because there's a pretty big disagreement between those from other players.
I actually like both of them.
Interesting.
And then the other thing is, I think, okay, so it's kind of weird. 8.5 is weird because I think the last 2 patches, like the regionals patch, the worlds patch, were really good, but the whole rest of that set was fucking dog shit. Sorry, balance wise. Like it was actually a good set. Like the balance was a little whack. So it's hard to really say there. I do think like set 8 was above set 0.9. And I feel like set 0.9 is like,
wow,
yeah, like a little lower.
Okay, so you think set 9 goes in A tier? Is that where it is?
I think set 9 should go in like B tier, and then like I think S tier for me is like set 3s. A tier is like set 8, and then like B tier is like set 9 and like 8.5 kind of thing.
Wow, you like set 8 more than set 9? That is a hot take. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay, Tleyds.
So I've only played set 7 to set 9, so I don't have any comment on all the other sets. But I mean, I honestly, let me see. I would say probably it goes set 7 and 7.5 for me, and then 8.5, 8, and then 9. I would say 9 is probably the best set I've played so far.
I thought you were going the other way. I thought you were going for your favorites. I was like, if your favorite set is set 7, man, I don't know what to say.
No. Sorry. So set 7 is worst, and then 8.5, 8, and then
stacking up.
All right, you can say. I was
reading it upwards.
Okay, I got you. Because I was like, wait, he said set 7. I was like, if you started playing in set 7, that would at least like that would make some sense at least.
Yeah.
Wow, TFT's awesome. Look at this new game I just found. Because honestly, I think it's with a lot of people who play TFT. But just like I thought you were literally going like, oh, so it's set 7, and I was just like, what do I
there's
say?
no way,
I was always
confused. Know what to say.
I was always confused why people bagged on set 7, because I was like, oh, I thought it was kind of fun, but I think it's just because they played all the other sets, and so they had experience on it, and that's what I'm starting to get to with like set 9. I think set 9 is better than set 7, and so on.
All right. Chat says that we should have save this one where there's TFT players who've been around for much longer. To be fair, this is like something that was topical this week. He tweeted this like 2 days ago. So I'm sure Mort will do one again in the future, and that might spark it once more when we have longer tenured players. For myself, I didn't agree. I actually think that there's a really high chance that history will remember set 9 as many people's favorite set, period. I think it's easily in the top tier in terms of fun replayability. And I think once the nostalgia washes away the bad points about set 9, because it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies, I think people will remember how freaking fun everything was. And it might not take very long, anywhere from maybe in a couple weeks when it hits live, when 9.5 hits live servers, to the moment set 10 hits, people are going to start remembering and lamenting about the days of set 9. I think there's a really high chance of it. So it's an agree for me. I think it's a top 2 set easily. And it might even be my favorite set. We'll see. I have to revisit again down the road and see if I actually believe that. Okay, and chat seems to have slightly disagreed, but I guess, you know, it depends on what people. It's all personal preference. That's what makes it really fun about this kind of stuff. Okay, so that was the agree segments. The last thing that we do is fantasy and the announcements. And oh, look what we have here. Another tournament, another fantasy draft victory for me. It's actually, I also talk about it with Bryce, Nathan. It's not fun when Bryce isn't trying hard fantasy because it doesn't seem like it's even close, man. Not even close. I want someone to challenge me. I want someone to challenge me.
If you want someone to challenge you, you know what you do? You open up this fantasy draft. You recruit.
Oh, you mean I let chat vote into it?
Or you find players who just want to fantasy draft.
Oh, I see. So it's like it turns into a pick'em situation. It's not like we exclusively draft, but it's like we all pick our lineup.
I think that definitely is a way to do it too. And then also like having a group of people who are dedicated to fantasy draft against you, like specifically that, not necessarily just the guests on the show, or like people who assist the guests on the show and give them things like, here's what I would bid on and why, and like it's like a secret thing. They have like an assistant who's there to help them against you.
Okay. Well, either way, I look forward to when Bryce returns. Tleyds, thanks for caring. I actually really was like, man, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I ranked this guy. I think because I thought you had what it takes to at least make final lobby. I didn't realize you would crush it and get that close as well. So I really appreciate that. And also, Broccoli made it really close. I almost lost a tiebreaker to Appies versus Goobums, so who would go through to day number 2. And I thought Broccoli would run away with it, but our team made a big comeback in day number 2. And that's it for our actual content. One thing I want to say, we do have one announcement, is the Vegas Open website is officially online, tftvegasopen.com, with a countdown to when you can buy your tickets. So if you're a challenger player and waiting for your priority and your discount, or you're a Grandmasters, Masters player that want to sign up, the countdown is live on that website. Make sure to go check it out. Also, quick temperature check. Tleyds, you're going to Vegas?
Yes.
And Rereplay, you're going to Vegas?
Of course.
And Admirable, you're going to Vegas?
I'm going whether or not I'm playing, whether or not I'm casting, whether or not I'm just going. I'm thinking that if I'm not casting it, I'm going, and I'm probably just going to wager everybody on everything.
And try to earn back your money that way.
I just want to go and be there. Like, that's the energy of the room, is I just want to experience that. And then I also love gambling. So this feels like a great spot to do that.
Awesome.
Please don't kick me out, Riot.
I don't think they're going to kick you out. What is this poll running in our chat? What is the better IGN? Is it Tleyds or Zinger? Can I get some context behind that?
I don't know. I was thinking about changing my name, and I was like, give me some names that I can change it to, and they all said to change it to Zinger, and I said no. And so now they're trying to convince me to change it to Zinger.
So the story that I was told was that this is your real name. Tleyds is your actual legal government name.
Oh no! So, like, you know DP, right?
Yeah.
Like DP is his first name and last name like
Pay. So his name's David Pay. So it's DP.
Yeah, exactly. This is the same thing. As
so Tleyds is your last name.
Correct. Yes.
Wait, is Tleyds TFT your X account, a Twitter account?
My X Twitter.
No. Twitter is now known as X.
Yeah. So on Twitter, like, who's? Because someone told me that you said this wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Your account.
Yeah. So I thought that wasn't my account, but then I thought about it, and I was like, who would make a fake Twitter account with that name? So then I just realized I made it and I forgot.
Right.
It's a very specific set of letters, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
shocked when I was like, there's no way on the planet that somebody did this without just stealing it once he had said something like this. But I didn't follow that one. I was like, I guess I'll just leave this one.
Yeah, it's just blank, and I don't know. I'll try to figure out the username and password and log in, but I'm pretty sure it's mine.
That's too funny, man. Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to if you choose to change your name. I'm sorry I'm one of the people that's been the loudest about giving you grief about your username. If you choose to hold on to it, it's great. And also now that you've like been on the podcast, now you've done well in tournaments. Now that I've done a YouTube video, I did a YouTube video on Tleyds tournament where you got a 3-star Aatrox. It was very, very cool. I think you have to keep it for a while. So if you don't change your username, I don't think anyone will blame you. On that note, let's get some final thoughts and comments before we wrap up this show. We'll start off with Rereplay here.
Yeah, I don't have too many files, so I was thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Of course. And 9.5 is yours. You're going for a second world championship.
Oh, I mean, I don't even have to say that anymore, right? I'm gonna win Worlds for fucking sure. I'm probably gonna win the next cup. I'm probably gonna win regionals. I'm probably gonna win Worlds. And I'm gonna be the Michael Jordan of this game. GG's. Okay.
I like that. All right, no take backsies. Tleyds.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was thank you for having me on. It was fun to talk about it and actually be on here. I enjoyed watching the podcast, so it was definitely nice to be on the other side. Overall, I enjoyed the set, enjoyed tournaments, and I'm excited for 9.5.
Nice. What do you have to say to all your fans in chat that love spamming your username?
Dude, these guys are crazy. I don't know. That's it.
He's disowning you guys live on broadcast. All right. Nathan, any final thoughts?
I'm just glad we have an actual heel character in TFT now with Rereplay, who just no matter what is happening is like, no, I'm just better. That's it. Easy game. Because we needed one of those in everything. It's actually kind of rare. I feel like they exist in like esports settings, but to have one that's active and also backs it up, it's like I feel like it'd be difficult to wager against Rereplay.
Wait, did you just call me a character by any chance?
Well, yeah, we're on the hit fictional TV show Teamfight Tactics. That's the way all these tournaments work. My
favorite reality show, honestly.
Exactly. And so I'm just glad that somebody here is like actually a bad guy and that I can cheer for them every single set.
All right. Well, I agree. I think that it's really fun to see more people come to life, and I'm really glad that we're able to use these reviewed episodes and other episodes in general of the show to get to know some of the people around the community. So, congrats to Tleyds, excuse me, and Rereplay for a fantastic tournament. 9.0 was great, and I'm looking forward to the Noxus Cup as well as everything in the future, as well as the podcast. And I also hope that my last comment is I hope that everything is going well with the Blum family. I know that they've had quite a journey. It wasn't easy. It's never easy delivering twins, let alone when they come a little bit early. So I hope everything is good on them. And so we wish all the love and blessings over to Bryce and the fam. If you guys missed any part of this episode, you can check out our stuff at youtube.com/@DTIYDK. That's where our YouTube VODs are. If you want the audio only version, let's say you're commuting or just want things on Spotify, check out anchor.fm/DTIYDK. And a big thank you to Yenwei, as well as all the people that volunteer and help at the esports media folks. And that's it from Frodan, Admirable, Rereplay, and Tleyds. Thanks so much for watching this episode, and we'll see you guys next time for more TFT action.